Good evening, everyone. The time is now 5:35 p.m. Sorry, we are just a tad bit late. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. We are going to begin the meeting. It has been duly posted as required by state law, and we are going to start with the invocation. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in a meaningful discussion while being respectful of one another. Guide this governing body as we make decisions that may affect the residents of our community. Bless this meeting today, all those present and those watching from home. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
And now the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Mark, if you can read the conflict of interest, please.
Yes, Mayor. Under state law, a conflict of interest exists if a council member or certain members of that person's family have a qualifying financial interest in an agenda item. Members with a conflict of interest cannot participate in the discussion nor vote on the agenda item. Are there any known conflicts of interest to disclose at this time?
None.
None.
Negative.
None.
None. Thank you. And it's my understanding that we don't have anyone signed up for citizen communication.
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay. And we are going to take things a little out of order. We'll come back to item number 1, but we'll start with item number 2, approval of minutes. We have the regular meeting of October 19th, 2022. Are there any amendments to the minutes?
Make a
Okay.
motion to approve.
Second.
I do have just one, too. I was waiting for someone else, but on the very top, it does indicate that Mayor Boswell was presiding at that meeting, if we can just make that change.
Which one?
It's on the first page.
I make a motion to move with that correction.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have items 3A through C. Do we have a motion, or is there any amendments?
I have a little correction in my rush my request to Ms. Amanda, is supposed to be their block of Westfield. That's all.
You know, Mayor, just for the sake of organization, I would like to pull out all 3 of them. There's some amendments I'd like to make to C also, and I have a couple of questions, one question section on A and B, which should be pretty quick.
Okay, so we'll remove these from the consent agenda, and we will now start with item 3A, consideration and possible action to approve a request from the Harlingen Marathon Event Committee to close the streets intersections mentioned in attachment Exhibit A, Sunday, February 5th, 2023 at 6:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the marathon event.
Just quick question for either Gabe or for the chief. How are we going to give the public notice? I know that when we did Rio Fest, I received a couple of complaints that people didn't have sufficient notice about the Rio Fest run. Is there any way we can just improve on that, put it on the paper at least or something?
We do give notice to some of the neighborhoods.
Okay.
Especially the ones on, is it West Street, I think, no, not West Street. It's the one past Town Lake. We normally go and give notice to that neighborhood, but we don't do it through the entire route, because a lot of them are businesses, and it's on a Sunday. But that one is one that neighborhood really is impacted. But we don't close any of those streets. We just have the runners going through there.
Woodland and Lake Drive.
That one's good. That's the one.
Gabe, I also want to make sure, now that we're discussing this, that I know that we have a tenant at the auditorium, and they use the building on Sundays. And it's my understanding that we had spoken with them, or both you and Josh maybe had spoken with them about ensuring that business would not be disrupted.
We are trying to work something out with them, because the marathon is in the morning. And so we're trying to see if they would like to change their service to the evening so that they won't be impacted. Otherwise, they can use a parking that's behind the auditorium where we would park for a White Wing game. because the auditorium itself would not be used, it'll be available, but the rest of the parking lot will be taken up.
Right.
And the majority of that road will be blocked that morning.
But they can park, because I do believe, I did have a chance to speak with them, and I know that they are okay with parking in the back of the building. That would not disrupt the service?
Well, it's going to impact them because they won't be able to park where they normally do, so they'll be impacted by that. So the solution might be that they have their service afternoon, once the marathon is completed.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't have an answer yet from them. Staff hasn't given me any indication of what they plan to do, but I'll try to reach out to them and see if we can come up with some solution.
I think
shortly.
they'd like to continue with their service, but to be able just to park in the back, so that way everybody's able to continue, to utilize the space for the marathon, but also so that it's not impacting. I do believe they've got a substantial amount of people that come at that hour.
Okay, I think if they still want to have their service in the morning, they may have to come into the facility from the west side,
Okay.
yeah, only, because the east side, there won't be any access to the back.
So maybe Josh can reach out, or?
Yeah, well, we'll do that.
Okay, great. Is there anything else, Commissioner?
No, there's just the same thing on B, right? It would just be public notice to see if there's ways to improve how we get the info out there. That's all. Thank you.
And Commissioner Morales, on item C, you wanted to change to the 800 block, is that right? 80, okay, so we can make that change. Do we have a motion?
Excuse me, sorry. Gonna make a few more changes to that exact one on C, which would be to add 2 on Polk Avenue between 6th and 9th. And then 1 more on East Buchanan to make sure to add 2 on, and we're gonna make sure to add 2 on East Monroe, and 2 on Wichita, just to make sure that we have all of them. Craig, are you getting that? I'm sorry, I'm not being. Thank you.
And since we're adding, 25th Street between Grimes and Washington, and Vinson between Breedlove and Ellsworth. Ellsworth?
All right, sorry, let me just go over it one last time for you, Craig. Now I fully understand my notes. So I have them already for East Monroe between 9th and 13th, but it'll be 2 speed humps there, and then 2 on West Wichita, which is already listed, and then 2 on Polk between 6th and 9th, and then to add 1 more on East Buchanan.
Fun times, huh, Craig? Okay, any other amendments?
I'll make the motion to move or approve all the consent items, and C to approve as amended by both Commissioner Mesmar, Commissioner Kinsley, and myself.
No, Morales.
Excuse me, I apologize.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. Okay, we are going to take a step back. Apologize. We're going to go to item number 1, presentation from H.E.B. of the $10,000 donation to the City of Harlingen for this marathon event.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
They want us on there.
Thank you all. On behalf of the City of Harlingen, we wanted to say thank you to H.E.B. for supporting the community of Harlingen so much, from the Harlingen Marathon all the way to the museum, the Arts and Heritage Museum, because without your help, we wouldn't be able to continue to grow the city and make it a beautiful place and a more healthy place. So thank you to H.E.B. again for supporting us and for always being there. And thank you for joining us today, so you can present us with a $11,000, oh, I thought it was 10. We got an extra 1,000, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So we got $11,000 for the Harlingen Marathon. We have over 700 runners signed up already. There's still time for everybody signed up. Go to myharlingenmarathon.com. It's very cheap, you know. No, invest in your health, invest in your future, and you can see all the beautiful sights of Harlingen if you run the marathon. If you're listening today, we can give you a code, so you can email me and we can figure out a discount for you all. But again, thank you to H.E.B., thank you to the commissioners, the city administration, and all the city staff that really helped put this event together. It's a team effort between H.E.B., the city of Harlingen, and all of our sponsors, but especially H.E.B. So thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Last marathon I ran was in Japan. I don't think I peed for 3 days afterwards.
That dehydrated?
Yeah. You know, it was about 68 when we started by the time we ended. Mid-90s, 100% humidity. I mean,
That's horrific.
Wonderful. All right. We definitely appreciate H.E.B. and all the wonderful work they do here in the community, not just with the marathon, but with all of our events. We appreciate their partnership and their dedication to our community. Now, we are going to be moving on to new business. Item number 4, consideration and possible action to approve an ordinance on first reading amending the City of Harlingen's budget for fiscal year 2023. Robert?
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. I did prepare a PowerPoint just to kind of give a brief overview of the budget amendment. On this slide, we show a summary by fund. So the fund is located on this side, and then all the revenues, all the expenditures, and then the net increase or decrease by fund. And then on the next slides, I'll go in detail by the revenue and the expenditures.
I'd like to point out that the only amount that we're taking or asking the commission to approve from the fund balance is a $1.1 million. Everything else, all the other funds are either added revenue or from different funds that we have. And Robert's going to cover that in detail.
That's correct.
Excuse me, what's that amount again, sir?
$1,184,436. It's a top number, Commissioner, on the top right of the presentation.
Right.
It's on page 2.
So on the next slide, we have revenues by source. So in the general fund, again, on the side, you have all the funds, and to the top on the headings, it shows what that increase is for. So there's interest increases of $1,451,000 for increases in market rates. In the CVB, we have $71,892,000 in sponsorship for Rio Fest. In the grants, we have $23,741,000. The majority of that is composed of the ARPA funds, which are rolling forward from last year that were unspent. Convention Center, we have $534,000 of residual bond money that we had left over after we settled our retainage payments, and so that got transferred over to the Convention Center for maintenance. Internal charges, that's a decrease of 2,390,000. On that one is just, that's not actual revenue, but it's a decrease, a paper entry where we account for our fleet maintenance, where we add replacement for vehicles. And so we didn't end up collecting the internal charges from the governmental funds, only from the enterprise funds. So we reduced the revenue on that. And then a transfer into the Harlingen Arts and Heritage Museum to replace the AC there. So the total revenues are 23,423,952, and the majority of that is in grants. The expenditures, same thing. On the left-hand side, you have all of the funds, and then I go in detail on the headings of what they are. So in the general fund, we have renovations to the new DID building that we purchased of $471,863.
Okay, that, I'd like to say, that's just the number that we have estimated for the renovations to the top floor. We've had meetings with some architects, Public Buildings has been out there, and so that's the number that we're projecting to spend to get that ready. It doesn't mean that that's not a goal, that's just a projected budget that we have.
What's
So-
that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The DID building,
And
Mayor?
the total was what?
471,863.
863.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was kind of what stood out to me a lot. So you're saying that is not set, that's just a projected
That's
amount?
just a projected number. Depending on how far we want to go, it is, we do want to make it look a little bit more modern, so we want to remove the carpet, repaint it, redo the bathrooms, put in some new doors, and so easily we could spend over $1 million on that renovation, but we're not going to. We're going to try to keep it well under that number. And so,
How much did we buy that building for?
150,000.
How much did we spend to update or get the first floor ready?
That I know of, Commissioner, we didn't spend anything.
So it was already ready to go the first floor.
I think the only thing we did was just repainted it, but that was done by the staff, the maintenance staff that's there. He repainted it himself. We just bought the material. So, yeah, that was concrete. It much better shape than the top floor. The top floor was being used by storage, for storage by the owner. And so it needs a little bit more work. It does look a little bit dated. But even the architect that saw the building said, man, that's a great price that you guys paid for the building. So,
Yeah, it's 3 times what we paid for the building, just for the second floor.
What's the long-term vision for that floor?
CVB is going to be going in there. We're going to move them from the downtown and put them up in that second floor. So,
I think, I know that with inflation, price of the cost of construction and the cost of materials has gone up, but it just seems excessive just in thinking, the renovation of a home
Build a home.
or build a
You
home.
can get one.
Yes, for that cost. So maybe we can just try to be a little more conservative with that figure, and I don't know if that can come back to the commission once there's a.
Mayor, what I can do is I can keep the cost at under 200,000, and then if we have to go above that, I'll come back to the commission
Okay.
and ask for any, and I'll keep you updated as to what we're spending the money on. And just to keep an example of what prices are doing these days, we had a bathroom that we had gone out for bids for there at the Lozano Plaza, and it came back at almost $500,000. So, and that's just a bathroom.
I remember that.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not pursuing that bathroom anymore. But what we can do is, I can ask Robert to cut that number down to 200,000, and we could just make it work with that.
Okay. And we know that you're going to, do the best to save where you can. So I have no doubt about that. But if we can, and if we need to revisit it, then we can do so at that time.
Okay.
When I was reviewing this, I thought that was the one thing that really stuck out.
We can make that, you'll make that correction, Robert?
Yeah, I'll make it for the second reading.
And who's putting in all those speed humps, man? It's getting crazy.
No doubt.
So, as Mr. Lopez said, the next column over is 161,620 for projected speed humps to the city.
What do they run us at?
$3,400.
34?
That's also some traffic lights and some other safety.
The next column over is a Pro Patch truck and spreader for Public Works.
That's at what we call the pothole machine. They have tar and asphalt that's just like you would get it for a new construction job. And so it sticks better when it's warm like that. So the one that we have now is just, it's outdated, needs to be replaced. Oscar has asked for one, so we put that in the budget to replace that.
And just a quick note on the speed humps, that one is coming from revenue that we received from the county for child safety. So that won't necessarily come out of fund balance. The next one over is, a couple of meetings ago, I came to you all to pay off a note, early pay off a note for Garcia. And so this is recording that expenditure in there, or the budget for that expenditure. The next column over is for the tennis courts, and that is to add one tennis pro, one full-time employee, and one part-time employee. So that would equate to $127,398. The next one over is the hotel motel fund, and that's $131,000 for the replacement of the HVAC system at the HPAT, the Harlingen Performing Arts Center. And so the cost of that is $181, but we did already have $50,000 recorded in the original budget. And so this 131 completes that 181 to replace that AC system.
And that's coming out of the hotel motel fund,
Out of the
and
hotel motel.
staff will be making those repairs, not the HPAT group. So we'll do that ourselves.
That's a building we do not own.
Right.
We don't own the building, we own the land that they're on. That's correct.
This is the one from Commissioner Pettis, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But it was at $50,000. That's what I was
Right,
thinking.
I-
Now from
I-
$50,000 to $131,000.
No, but when we had that item, I did tell the commission that we didn't think that 50,000 would cover it. We needed to go and make sure we did an assessment. I was hoping that we could just make some repairs. If we didn't, we'd need to replace the whole thing. It'd be about that number. And that's what they're recommending, because that system is over 10 years old. I think it's the original. Is that true, Craig?
I don't recall its age.
Okay, yeah, but it's,
It's old.
yeah.
But I do remember that Commissioner Lopez said maybe we can try to utilize the building to do some kind of community event, so that way we're investing in it, but at the same time, I mean, in addition to all the great work that they do, is that right?
Exactly, right? Like, you're using $131,000 of the public's money to go, to a certain extent, to a private benefit, which is this HPAT group. I understand that to a certain extent it's self-serving because we own the land that's underneath it, right? But I think we need to do something else with that building, just for your consideration.
We do have the right to ask them to use a facility from time to time. We have in the past, not lately, but we can. And so,
Is there any restriction on how many times we can ask to use it in a year?
Commissioner, I don't recall. Normally, we've used it maybe, I think, once or twice a year at the most. But we can for other venues that come up. We just have to be accountable of when they have their season and when they have their play scheduled.
I will say, though, that they're the only
Community
place,
theater?
community, theater that is for the public. We do have the school district, but this is for the community. So they are a community service, but if we could to utilize it when they're not in, I don't know what it's called, session or
Season?
whatever.
Season.
Right. But because I know right now they're doing that. They've had a few that have, I want to say 3 different plays that they've done recently in the last few months. But maybe when they have that off season, we can utilize that.
We can look at options of how to use that facility for other events, but we haven't recently.
Thank you.
The next column over is other, and I have some slides that'll explain what is in that column for each of those numbers. So this subtotal before encumbrances is $18,791,639, and our encumbrance rollovers, which are POs that were created in the prior year and got started, and maybe not all of the equipment or goods or services were received. So those are we're bringing over to this year, so we don't use this year's budget, and that is about $9.2 million. And some of that is grants, some of it is infrastructure for the overlay projects that we're working on but didn't get to complete in the prior year and we're rolling over to this year. So the total expenditures is 28,077,307.
Of course, that's going to change because we're going to decrease the
We'll decrease
DID number
Yeah.
by about $271,000.
So if you kind of hold this page 4 out, and we'll kind of go in detail on some of these. So the 471 at the first column is the building renovations, and then, so I kind of explain each one by column. So the 161 is the speed humps, the pro patch is 285, the payoff of the note is 337. I do explain the tennis center, the employees that we're hiring there, and the hotel motel funds that we're going to use for the HVAC replacement. So on the special revenue for the grants, 89,000 of those expenditures are for police, 133,200 is for fire, 71,000 for Tatum Jefferson Street, 1,197,000 for the Tatum 21st Street Drainage Improvement Project, and the remainder is the ARPA allocation that I am rolling over from the previous year that was unspent. So these are the.
Now, all the $16 million is grants. All of it is grant funded. So none of this is from general fund.
Right, it's grant funded.
Just one, it just dawned on me. On this ARPA, Harlingen Waterworks, the 7.7 million, are you gonna pass it over to the Harlingen Waterworks?
That's the plan as they do the projects, as they do the approved projects, they'll send us the expenditures, we'll review them and then reimburse them for the eligible projects.
Okay.
They're going to get all the 7.7 million, Commissioner, but we're still responsible when we get audited, and we will get audited for this eventually. So it'll be on a reimbursement basis. They'll make the expenditure, and then Robert will cut them a check within 5 days and then get that issued to them.
So the column that says other expenditures at 221, 180 in the general fund, this is the breakdown of what's in that 221, 180. So we had an increase in Cameron County appraisal district fees, additional 22,350. We had an increase in our TML insurance of 85,000. MIS is doing some capital outlay for software maintenance on the building permits and AR software. And some contract labor that goes along with that, 7,320. We're also allocating some for Lansing Hill security system. Some Cognos and DMS training, those are softwares that are integrate with our accounting software. We're having some ADA traffic crossing equipment of 30,295 and $18,000 for the planning development, the building permit software and that related training of 18,000.
And hold up, on that, I'm sorry, but on the software for the planning and zoning, is that affirmative to we'll have it in March or April?
They're currently actually implementing it right now. We're having meetings with them, and that's already in the process. And that integrates with, I think it's a module of our Central Square system, which is our accounting software.
Can that be integrated with other systems? If we need to change to make sure that everybody's on the same page?
This is just for permitting,
Yeah, it's just for
tracking,
building
permitting. We can actually buy additional software modules to do different things, but we just have to buy that software from the company.
Yeah, this one's specific to our accounting software because it's a module, a component of our accounting system that we're just purchasing.
What it'll do, Commissioner, it'll allow the developers to pay for their permits online, and it'll allow them to track them to see where they are in the process of getting issued. And once they've been issued, they'll know, and so they can come pick up their permit.
It's supposed to facilitate obtaining like building permits for the building.
But it's not scheduled to be rolled out until March. So staff is working on it, but it'll be rolled out in March.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
So the next slide over it goes by fund. So in the hotel motel, we're replacing the AC for 15.5. The Harlingen CVB, the sponsorship of Rio Fest 71,892. We are upgrading our city website for 28,000, and that's out of PEG funds. The Harlingen Convention Center, we had equipment purchased there for 92,000. These are the proprietary funds. In the sanitation fund, we're replacing 2 doors at the landfill. to be in compliance with TCEQ, and that's 17,000. And here is the expenditure for the Arts and Heritage Museum of 15,500. The first one was the transfer in, and this is the actual expenditure. The excess of the golf course bridge of the 18,616 for the installation. And then motor vehicle warehouse, the fleet maintenance is requesting 14,000 to paint the fleet operations floor. And that concludes the budget amendment.
Again, I'd like to point out that only 1.1 million is being taken from the general fund. Everything else is from grant funds or some of it from the Public Works Enterprise Fund.
Staff recommends approval.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion with the amendment that we discussed about the DID project.
And I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did you
Motion
read-
carries. Thank you, Robert.
We need to read that caption for the ordinance, because it is an ordinance.
Oh, it,
Oops.
I'm sorry. Can you read the
Absolutely.
caption?
An ordinance amending the revenue and expenditure budget for the city of Harlingen, Texas for fiscal year October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023, providing for the publication of the caption of this ordinance and ordaining other matters related to the foregoing.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Can I renew that motion?
Make the motion with the discussed amendment for the Downtown Improvement District building.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, consideration and possible action to authorize the city manager to execute a landscape maintenance agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation for the landscape maintenance and mowing highway right-of-way along 4 sections on I-69 East, I-2, I-69 East, and 1 through 2, spur SP 206, and spur 54.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Oscar Garcia, Public Works Director for the record. In front of you, you have an advanced funding agreement for landscaping maintenance with TxDOT. This agreement is for the landscape maintenance and mowing highway right-of-way along 4 sections. Section 1 is I-69 and I-2 interchange from FM 2994 to Lincoln Street, spur 206 from Business 83 to I-69E, Interstate 2 from Lewis Lane to spur 54, and that'll be landscape maintenance and mowing. Section 2 is spur 54 from Lewis Lane to I-2 to I-69. That'll be mowing and litter pickup. Section 3 is I-69 East, half a mile of Loop 499 to Wilson Road, mowing and litter pickup. And Section 4 is I-69 from Lincoln Avenue to Wayland Road, mowing and litter pickup. The city of Harlingen shall contribute $182,101 to this project. The city of Harlingen will make 2 periodic payments to cover the estimated participation. First payment is due on January 2023 in the amount of $91,050.50. Second payment is due on January 15th, 2024 in the amount of $91,050.50. Staff recommends approval.
So we're paying the state of Texas. They'll hire a contractor to do the mowing.
Correct.
Yes.
Have we
Question
done this before?
Yes, we do. And the reason this came about, Commissioner, is because TxDOT will only do it maybe once a year. And then so it takes, it looks almost dilapidated, especially the interchange area around the visitor center.
I understand.
Yeah, and so we negotiated this to have it done monthly, and so that's why we have to pay him to do it.
I think that's my question. Right? You talk about it to be cut monthly, but there's nowhere in the contract that says it must be cut monthly. So like when you read it, right, it looks like it gets cut once for the whole year.
Oh, no.
Right.
That TxDOT does it once, but we have to pay for the rest of the times. It is monthly, correct?
Where's that language where it says that it's going to be monthly cut or cut monthly?
That's the assumption that I'm in because that's what they told me and the staff told me.
Yeah, we don't want to work with assumptions.
Yes.
I read over it 3 or 4 times, I think. Daniel did too, and that's what we
Yeah, I never saw anything either.
Two lawyers are shaking their heads
Yeah.
back and forth.
We want for the city of Harlingen, I agree that it needs to be done. I'm so glad that you are being proactive in making sure that this happens. But I'll tell you, if we just assume they're gonna do it, they're not gonna do it, because we've been assuming they're gonna do it and they haven't been doing it. But if we can we add, is there a way to add that language?
Mayor,
Yeah, I just want the language in the contract so that there's no assumptions being made one way or the other. But fantastic work, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. If not, you're gonna be working, trying to get them to do, and we just want to make less work for you, but especially if we're gonna be paying them this
no, we'll request the schedule tomorrow morning.
Okay, sounds great.
Perfect, then I'll make the motion to approve the contract, subject to getting the schedule and including part of attachment A, and subject to legal's authorization.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item 6, presentation by Texas Community Watershed Partners on proposed updates to the flood damage prevention ordinance, section 105 for the city of Harlingen. Craig?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Craig Cook, Assistant City Manager for External Services. Tonight, we've invited Dana Snyder with the Texas Community Watershed Partners to come and brief you informationally, no decisions required. This is just for your information about changes that we have proposed over the last few months to Section 105 of the city ordinance, which deals with flood damage prevention. Sort of related to what we did with the subdivision guide a few months ago. Same sort of process. We signed an agreement with them back in May to help us at no cost to us. And we have some ideas of changes to be made, and we're just presenting them for your information. We did the same presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission last week. We got a lot of good support and some ideas that we will follow up with. But this is, as I say, just for your information of where we are in the process. So without further ado, Dana, your presentation.
Hi, all. Good evening. So I know a couple of y'all were here last week, so thank you for bearing with me for go-around number 2 on the same presentation. So as Craig said, my name is Dana Snyder. I'm a project manager at the Texas Community Watershed Partners. Just a very brief overview of who we are. We're a grant-funded program within the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. So we focus largely on providing in-kind services. A range of those services include technical services like this update to the ordinance, the proposed updates to the ordinance. So we worked with the city of Harlingen and a few other municipalities in Cameron County, I think back in April, on what we call a community health and resource management workshop, which is essentially risk identification and scenario planning to kind of help mitigate risk in favor of resilience building efforts. So we signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Harlingen back in May to kind of work through certain updates that we could propose to the ordinance. So as Craig also said, this is of course meant to be kind of simply an overview of those proposed changes. You know, we're kind of doing this step by step. So first steps being presenting to y'all at the commission, the P&Z last week, and then we can take recommendations, suggestions, and go from there. So feedback is obviously welcome. And so I do want to kind of preface this also by saying that I organized the presentation in terms of you know, kind of shorter term actions, maybe more feasible to do pretty quickly, and then longer term actions that may be kind of more complex. They may require a bit more oversight, may have a bit more of an effect on site design, et cetera. So we are aware of that, and we want to kind of think through kind of the longer term actions in more detail. To start, the first kind of 2 bullet points are extraterritorial jurisdiction applicability and then the use of best available data as the basis for enforcement of different ordinance provisions. So the idea of these two is basically to just ensure that the ordinance is really encompassing risk all throughout the special flood hazard area. So, making sure that, outside of the corporate limits of the city, you are able to enforce, protections on the built environment and the community, which is not at the moment explicitly mentioned in the ordinance. So that would be the ETJ applicability. And then best available data. At the moment, the ordinance only requires that you enforce it based on basically FEMA maps. This would allow you to use kind of more up-to-date data, maybe more comprehensive data to make sure that you are kind of considering flood risk as it exists both within the kind of standard maps that you'd be using, so the firms and the flood insurance studies, but also to expand it to other data that's more up-to-date. So FEMA just released its base level engineering, I think in May or March or May of last year. So that's based on flood depth. And then we also did put in a provision that would allow you to also kind of determine special flood hazard areas or SFHAs based on areas of known flood risk. So areas that may not be represented in either the base level engineering or other FEMA data, but which are areas that the city staff knows to be high risk for flooding. So really just allows you to have a bit more authority on a case-by-case basis for enforcement of various requirements and provisions. The next one would be freeboard requirements. I know that there will be a bit more discussion to be had on what level of freeboard you might want to implement should we move forward on this step. In the ordinance, we kind of put in a placeholder, so as opposed to what it currently says, which is to put a structure at or above the base flood, we're asking that the city, or suggesting that the city allow for properties to be built a certain amount above the base flood elevation. We put in a little XX as a placeholder so that y'all can discuss what you think is feasible and appropriate for whatever freeboard you may put in. And then uses in special flood hazard area. What we've done here is we've suggested that you eliminate or prevent the storage of hazardous materials in the special flood hazard area, just to make sure that we're not worrying about contamination of water and damage to the flood zone, to waterways, et cetera. And then sort of other kind of elements of that, I'm going to talk about a bit more in the next slide, which are going to be kind of more like long to midterm actions. And then the last thing is cleanup items. These are really basic kind of adding or updating definitions. So as opposed to the current ordinance, which refers to or defines regulatory flood zone, we've kind of replaced that with special flood hazard area to be more consistent with the language we use throughout, including with the use of the terminology best available data, which refers to the base level engineering. We also went ahead and kind of moved around some items, including stop work order, to put it with the violation section, to kind of put more of an emphasis on enforcement. So those are the kind of short-term actions. Moving on, for the mid to long-term recommendations, we only have a few of these. The first one is based on the idea of critical facilities. We added a placeholder in definitions for this. It's not currently in the ordinance, but essentially we want to kind of suggest that the city protect critical facilities of various kinds that you're able to both prepare for and then respond to flood events. So those might mean fire stations, hospitals, schools, what have you, to make sure that the infrastructure that you're relying on to protect the community, protect the built environment is able to be mobilized in a flood event or a different emergency. We did have some suggestions on how to kind of support this through the P&Z. So, in addition to things like schools, hospitals, et cetera, different public works facilities. So this is, the reason we put this in the definition section is it allows you a bit more leeway in terms of how you want to define that and in what circumstances you might want to protect critical facilities. So maybe you want to put in floodproofing or elevate roadways that are adjacent to certain types of facilities. This is really up for debate or discussion among the commission, among city staff. The next one is called no adverse impact. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that terminology. No adverse impact, or NAI, is sort of a set of principles more than it is policies. It's from the the Association of State Floodplain Managers, or ASFPM. So the idea of no adverse impact is to make sure that developments are not going to have a negative impact. New developments won't have a negative impact on developments downstream. and then also to protect the kind of natural floodplain functions, so the integrity of the floodplains, make sure that natural resources can function in a way that helps prevent floods. So as I said, we are suggesting that you prohibit the storage of hazardous materials in the floodplain. One of the other things, though, that will kind of have an effect on no adverse impact, or that is sort of in support of no adverse impact, is that last bullet point, which is compensatory storage. Compensatory storage is essentially a way of sort of a balance between prohibiting fill, fill as a means of elevating a structure, rather than eliminating that as a possibility. This is a way of essentially allowing for different kinds of elevation of a structure without damaging the floodplain. So if you were to use fill to elevate a property, compensatory storage would simply require that you excavate the equivalent amount within a certain distance of the fill that's used. Sort of an engineering term, so I don't want to get technical.
So you don't flood your neighbor.
Yeah,
Flood your house,
exactly,
flood your
exactly.
neighbor.
There we go, yeah. Yeah, basically to make sure that you're not reducing too much flood storage, making sure that you're kind of protecting the integrity of the floodplain, not changing the contours because it's going to exacerbate flooding in the future. And so one of the things that we did do here is we put in a reserved section, so it would allow you to kind of think through case-by-case bases, on which you might want to require compensatory storage, and no adverse impact in particular. So you might want to do this based on the size of a structure, or the use, the land use, or whatever it may be, but it allows you a bit more of a case-by-case basis on which to require compensatory storage and other such requirements. And then we also went ahead and added in a section in the very beginning in permitting procedures that would essentially require just basic oversight to make sure that there are no changes in water velocity, increases in erosion, kind of basic standards to make sure that new structures are not going to increase flood risk. So these are very basic kind of overview of some of the recommendations we're making. Again, these are up for discussion. This is sort of the second step, let's say, in our process. We're probably going to go back to the drawing board, keep kind of thinking through the best way to do this. Kind of changes we might need to make that would be most feasible and most appropriate for the community. But we want to make sure that what recommendations we're making are kind of tailored to the needs of Harlingen, to kind of mitigate flood risk, which I know is a huge concern here. So the last thing is my contact information. Craig and Luis obviously have it. It's who I've been working with. We've been meeting every couple weeks. So you're welcome to reach out to them to get my information, or reach out to me directly. I did go ahead and put in a couple of resources. The first of those is the Community Rating System Coordinator's Manual. So I do want to kind of give a brief overview of that program. Community Rating System is a very complex program, but very beneficial. It essentially allows you to enroll or conduct different kinds of activities, be they increasing your regulatory standards, as we're trying to do with the ordinance, improve mapping activities, things like signage, to make sure that people are, not illegally dumping whatever kind of maybe trimmings from grass into the drainage channels, what have you. These kinds of things will help mitigate flooding, but can also gain you points in this program that will ultimately, if you're enrolled in it, reduce premiums for the NFIP, the National Flood Insurance Program. So, the more activities you're able to do, the more points you get, and the more points you get, the greater the reduction in insurance premiums. So you're not only getting a financial benefit, but you're also improving conditions for flooding. You're reducing flood risk. That manual has far too many details on every possible activity that you can do. No need to kind of get into the nitty-gritty, but I did want to provide that resource for you so that if you're interested, particularly in higher regulatory standards, you can look into it. That's where we've gotten a lot of the materials, some of the sample language that we've used. The second one is the No Adverse Impact Toolkit from the Association of State Floodplain Managers, which is very closely related to the CRS Coordinator's Manual. Again, it's a lot of detail, not necessary to look through all of it, but I want to make sure you have it. I realize that I put the links and that you cannot click on links in your printed PDFs, so I will send those links to Craig and Luis, and they can forward them to you. And yeah, that's that's my presentation. So does anyone have any questions for now?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you.
Hi.
This is a delightful presentation. It makes
Great.
me smile and give me hope.
Wonderful.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely, anytime, and we're happy to keep adding things in, and if you guys have suggestions for, or concerns related to flooding you'd like us to consider, please do let me know. I want to make sure that we're taking everyone's kind of priorities related to the flood ordinance into account.
Did we find you or did you find us?
That's a good question. So as I said, we did one of our workshops, it's the Community Health and Resource Management Workshop. So it's sort of using geographic information systems data to help identify flood risk. So we reached out to the city of Harlingen, kind of a small handful of other communities. So I think it was Harlingen, Brownsville, South Padre Island, and a few others. And I think based on that, Craig and Luis reached out to me. So found each other, let's say.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dana, has any of the other municipalities implemented these suggestions, or some of them, or is it kind of just in the beginning phases for all of the governments that you're working with?
So this one is specifically for the city of Harlingen. I do know that I think we've worked on ordinance updates recently for a few other municipalities and counties all over the state. I think it's possible that some of the other cities may reach out to us. I think we worked with the city of San Benito last week on a project identification, so using that same GIS model. So, it really is up to a community to reach out to us to work with them.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes,
Okay.
somewhat. No,
Okay.
Yes, you did. You elaborated enough. I don't need to follow up. But thank you
Sure.
so much. We do appreciate the time that you've taken in working with city staff. We all up here are very concerned with flooding and ensuring that homes that are purchased here in the city of Harlingen are up to our standards and expectations to ensure that we can mitigate flooding as much as possible. We all acknowledge that, when it rains, there's going to be water on the ground, but we want to do what we can to ensure that our community is safe. So we really appreciate everything that you've done and the time that you've put into this. I'm sure everyone agrees.
I think this is a great thing, and I want to just commend Luis and Craig for, looking into this. I mean, this is a great thing. I'm always up for updating our ordinances or standards to, like Norma said, to mitigate the flooding. So I hope you guys continue with this and then bring it back to us and see what type of improvements that we could, bring to fruition.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Likewise. All right. Item 7, consideration and possible action to authorize the city manager to award a construction contract with Reya Construction under bid number 2023-04 for the Hick Hill Road Drainage Improvement Project designed by TSTC Infrastructure Group under RFQ 2021-14 for the city of Harlingen, ARPA. Luis?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Luis Vargas. I'm the city engineer. And this item is, as the mayor mentioned, is a construction contract under bid number 2023-04. And it was designed by TSTC Infrastructure Group. TSTC was one of the 9 previously selected firms to work on projects funded by ARPA for drainage. The project will mitigate flooding by increasing the capacity and the size of a culvert pipe that goes through or under the Hick Hill Road near the Hickory Hill subdivision. The project is essentially replacing an existing 36-inch pipe with 2 48-inch pipes that will act as the culvert under Hick Hill Road. The proposed improvements are from the 2008 Drainage Master Plan. The drainage area is identified as System S in the plan. It includes drainage ditches and tributaries from the Adams Garden irrigation number 19, and they all flow towards the International Boundary Water Commission, or IBWC, North Floodway. The city received 2 bids for the project construction. Reya Construction was $195,400. Go Underground LLC was $238,164. And the city recommends the selection and award for a construction contract to Reya Construction as the lowest bidder. Now, I'm happy to answer any questions.
We're gonna get this water to go flow north instead of south, that's correct?
That is
the best
correct.
option?
Yes. It will flow, it's flowing north right now, and it will continue to flow north.
And this is gonna help the areas, well, around my neighborhood, off Bass Boulevard, Tam Lane, and that area, correct?
That is correct, yes. So there is a restriction currently in that culvert, being it's that undersized. So we're increasing the size, adding 2 pipes instead of 1, both being 48. This is within the city limits. I do want to say that there's like 3 more restrictions along the way in this ditch. They are outside of the city limits, and those are in Palace Drive, Sparrow Drive, and Kelly Drive going north. Those will have to work with the irrigation district in the future to be able to upsize those culverts.
So we're doing what we can, in other words.
Essentially.
Any other discussions? Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, consideration and possible action to authorize the city manager to award a construction contract with Texas Cordia Construction for the TxDOT Loop 499 sidewalk project from FM 106 to Rio Hondo Road. Luis?
Thanks, Mayor. For the record, Luis Vargas, City Engineer. On May 22 of 2017, the city applied to the TxDOT, we'll make sure I say the acronym, Transportation Alternatives Set Aside, or TASA program, for funding for its Loop 499 sidewalk project, and we were awarded with $454,142 for the construction costs. Since the TASA funds require a local match, we enter into an agreement, which is the Advanced Funding Agreement, AFA, with TxDOT, in which the city committed to participate with $34,601 of construction costs and in-kind contributions, plus 100% overruns, and we included the agreement in the agenda. On October of last year, we received bids for the construction of the project, which, by the way, was designed in-house, and the lowest bid was for $624,648. With that, the lowest bid was over $170,506 over the awarded $454,000 from the grant. So we requested additional funding from the program, and in the next bullet, or point number 5, it says pending TASA approval. We already got that approval. So with that, the city's total participation will be $73,817. Of that, $34,000 will be of the original local match, and $39,000 of the additional match due to the overruns. So with that, we received 3 bids. Texas Cordia Construction was $624,000. RBM Contractors, $887,000. Lucania Construction, $1,017,000. We recommend the award for the Texas Cordia as the lowest bidder. And right now, with the exception of a few businesses, there are no sidewalks on that section of the loop. This project includes 4-foot sidewalks on the west side from from Tyler to Rio Hondo. And we're crossing UP Railroad, Washington Avenue, Grimes, and until Rio Hondo.
Okay, so we're getting $454 from the state,
That's correct.
and we're gonna spend 73. So we're spending about, right?
Yes.
It's gonna cost us 73, so it's about 16% more or less of the project.
Well, we're getting more than $454,000
Okay.
because we received additional funds because we requested it, right?
To find additional funds.
To cover the difference between the original amount awarded to the lowest bid.
Okay, what's the bottom line?
Yes.
about 130,000 more than the
54. So we're about 585, the state's giving us.
Yes.
And we're putting up 73.
Yes.
It's a good deal. It's about 12%.
Yeah, it's about 1 in 7.
Yes. Thank you for that.
Have you seen where the, so I just want to make sure, so on Tyler, so it's where Cardenas Motors, or used to be Cardenas Motors, that corner, all the way going north towards essentially TSTC?
We're Hunter Road.
Yeah.
Who walks there? Oh, you do? Oh, okay. I just, okay, because I don't
Obviously
see
not
anyone ever
you.
walk there.
There are a lot of cyclists and a lot of runners that go through there. There've been some fatalities with cyclists further down the loop because it's kind of dark, I guess. And so I think that this will get the walkers off the road and onto the sidewalk.
Don't we have a, and I just don't know, don't we have an ordinance that does not allow cycling on the sidewalk?
No, it would get the people that actually walk. I'm sorry if I said cyclists. I apologize. It's only the people that walk, get them off the road and onto a sidewalk. Cyclists still have to stay on the right of way on the edge and ride through there.
It goes from,
Right here.
From where Harrison and Tyler meet, that's FM 206, going north to Rio Hondo.
And the railroad's okay with us putting a sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I got one for you. I know this was requested pushing 6 years ago. Is there any way we could request another sidewalk, but this would be south of 83 or 70, 83 or Highway 2, where the residents, where we have a residential area between Rangerville and Ed Carey Drive? Because the one that was built recently is just north, and we have businesses in empty areas. But on the south side of the expressway, that's where you have the residents, and that's where you have the school buses to stop to drop off kids.
Like on Morris Road?
No, I'm looking at from Rangerville Road to Tyler, to Ed Carey Drive.
The Morris Road connects the two. You're talking about on the frontage?
On the frontage road.
Oh, okay.
On the frontage, okay? And when it rains, it gets a little wet, a little too deep, and students are walking on the road, and that's the little hazard is there.
so Luis, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, those are really good suggestions, but for this award, the 550,000 or so that we got from the state, we're required to utilize it where we said we would, right? And for this project, and this was about 5 or 6 years ago for us to get this money, is that correct?
Yes.
We would
So-
have to reapply for a different location.
Right. I do share some concerns with Commissioner Lopez about the location, and I probably, if I was in those discussions, would have asked for other areas. I know there had been some fatalities, some cyclists, but those are further down on the loop. I don't know that this would prevent that, but I do know there's some walking that goes on around there, because Commissioner Ford enlightened us, so that's wonderful. But we want to move forward because we don't want to lose the opportunity to utilize these funds. But definitely, maybe we can at another time have a conversation about sidewalks that are needed within the community in other areas, definitely close to schools and things of that nature. But unless I'm wrong and we can use these funds, this has to be specific for this project, correct?
That's right, and that's, I guess, what the agreement entails, right? And I'm gonna verify, but well, this is TxDOT right-of-way, of course, right? So it's an agreement with them to improve, a right-of-way that we share, right? But it's state right-of-way. For other parts of the city where there's TxDOT right-of-way, we could see we can apply it to the same program and get a similar agreement. For right-of-way that we maintain and own, we could maybe look into other grants.
Awesome. All right, do we have any other discussion?
So moved.
Okay. Do you have a second? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, gentlemen?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right. Item 9, consideration and possible action to approve the continued funding for the TSTC Goal Line Assistance Program. Beverly?
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I am here to ask for basically the consider approval for continued funding for the TSTC Goal Line Assistance Program. This program originally began in January of 2020 and was awarded funds to help students finish their final year of school that were experiencing some economic challenges. And the program or the funds that are used are scholarships for these students that can be used for tuition, materials, uniforms, tolls, testing fees, and even TSTC housing. The last award amount was $50,000 in May of 2022. It has helped 39 students so far. Those programs that those students are enrolled in vary from mechatronics to associate's degree in nursing, wind energy, and others. The $50,000 that they received in May is just about out of funds. And so TSTC has requested that we go ahead and move forward with the additional $50,000. It is in our budget, and so I'm asking for your approval. Any questions?
I think it's great. I don't know about the 2.0 GPA.
I actually think that's a good thing, because a lot of times, like as a teacher, I see like I teach AP, but I also teach other kids as well. And a lot of times it's the really
Us normal students.
Us
GT.
Yeah. Well, no, I see a lot of my other they always qualify for all the the scholarships and all the assistance, but then it's the other ones that they have a solid C or something, and they're really good kids, but they have extra they have to overcome other obstacles that the other kids don't, and that this actually helps them out. I think it's a great thing. C's are good too, passing.
C's get degrees.
Yes.
There you go. Well, we support TSTC. That did raise a question for me as a parent, and I would just say those grades are probably a reflection of the teachers teaching over there.
Touche.
Ooh, that was a throwdown, Commissioner.
We'll talk about this afterwards.
They go burn?
No, but in all seriousness, we love TSTC. We're fortunate to have them here in our community, and anything that we can do to further support them and the students they put out and put in the workforce, I'm 100% for. So, gentlemen,
Make the motion to approve this.
Second.
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Item 10, consideration and possible action to schedule a date to hold a workshop on the assessment of the Public Works Department to include but not limited to future projects, purchases, pending issues such as alleys, streets, drainage, employee training, and any other improvements. And this was requested by Commissioner Frank Morales and Commissioner Ford Kinsley.
Basically, what I'm asking for is a overview and assessment from the new Public Works Director and his new crew, or whoever he has brought on board. And what I'm asking my fellow commissioners is to let's solidify a date so we can have a workshop. It could take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, but I'd rather have a workshop than having that discussion during the meeting. That'll take, an extra 45 minutes to an hour, and let's make it nice and brief within the hour. So
Commissioner,
I'm up for suggestions as to
could
what
I
days you
recommend
guys
Could I recommend that we ask, would you let me ask the director when he's ready to come up with an assessment? He's just only been here for a few months, and so I'd like to give him an opportunity to put that together and see how much time he needs to get that done, as opposed to us giving him a date. That way he'll feel more comfortable with what information
So
he'll.
you want to table this for?
No. Just give me the opportunity to talk to him and get a date, and then I'll forward that to you, and then we can go from there.
That's
The
a
main
wonderful
thing, Craig
idea.
and I talked, the main thing we're looking is the new gentleman coming in, his vision, what he is seeing. It's an opportunity for us to meet him, but more than anything.
Okay.
So I guess we could have a follow-up workshop if we need to. But I think that's a great idea to negotiate, or not negotiate, but get with him on what's best with his schedule, especially. I know that they're super busy out there, and he's got a lot on his hands. So I can make myself available when he's got time, and hopefully we can get that done.
And I'll have Amanda forward the dates, possible dates to you, and then we can just pick a date.
All I ask is no Mondays. That's it.
Hmm?
All I ask is for no Mondays.
No Mondays, okay,
No
no Mondays.
And
Okay.
after 5 p.m.
Well, yes, it'll be a workshop, so it'll be after 5.
Don't do windows, or don't do. And I do have a question, just real quick, Gabe. If we want to have a workshop, do we need to request that at a city commission?
No, you as mayor can actually call a workshop.
Okay.
Or,
I had some others in mind, and I didn't, okay, so we
Yeah.
can talk about that
Mhm.
later. Thank you. All right, so I don't think we need to, do we need a motion for that?
No, I don't think.
No, I don't, okay. So Gabe will take care of that. Excellent. I think that's a great idea, Commissioner Morales and Kinsley. Item 11, consideration and possible action to approve a resolution appointing a city representative to the Cameron County Appraisal District Board of Directors for a 2-year staggered term. Gabe?
Mayor, we have David Algebride, who's on the board right now, and his term is up. We had talked about this, and I think at the last meeting we had, each commissioner was going to come up with a name of someone they thought who might be willing to serve, and then pick from there.
Does this gentleman want to continue to serve?
I have not spoken to him, so I don't.
Yes, he wants to continue to serve.
I think it's best that we, have change it up. He's been there for a couple years already, and I always think that it's better to get new blood in there.
So, just to ask, he's only been there 4 years, correct? That's all I know?
I
Yes.
don't know.
I think it's 2 terms, 4 years.
Okay. And has he been on the board before?
No,
I don't know.
So this is his first stint on the board?
correct.
Okay. And we don't have any, I've never seen, we don't have any term limits on board members? I know on commission, we have term limits, but the board members themselves do not have term limits.
Well, some of them do. Some of them serve when their commissioner that appointed them is still serving, and once the commissioner's off, they're automatically off the board. But not all boards have that.
But this is a county position.
Correct.
Yes.
And that board does not have a term limit.
Correct.
Not that I know of, no.
Every 4 years, is that right?
Yeah, this is a 2 years, right?
It's every 2 years.
So
we
it's
need
2
to-
terms.
He's been on 2 terms, 4 years.
So I know I came up with the name. His name is Stephen Brewer. I know he was the former mayor of La Feria, and I think that he would be a good option. He's worked with the city from my understanding. I don't know him that well, but he's worked with the city. He's actually from your district, Mike.
Yeah,
He's in
Steve
your
Brewer is a wonderful person.
Yes, he's in Treasure Hills, right?
Yes.
I
Is
think
he
Where he
interested?
lived.
In
He's a
fact,
great guy.
I put him on the golf advisory board. So I think he would be excellent. We already have, I can't think of his name right off the bat. Algebrine, he's been there for 2 terms. Let's give Steve a shot for a stint for 2 years.
Did you speak with him?
Huh?
Did you speak with him
No,
about it?
Frank did for me.
I spoke with
And
him.
he on board? I mean,
He's on board.
Who's on board?
Steve Brewer.
Oh, okay.
Algebright's the vice president, right?
Yeah, Archebright's the vice president of that organization, and what they do is they oversee the finances, make sure every penny is accounted for in and every penny is accounted for out. in the organization. They don't do anything with raising or lowering taxes or sending assessments or anything. They're just the oversee board.
I think having that little extra experience of, working with the city, the municipality and stuff, I think that would give them a lot of insight that maybe Mr. Alderbright does not have.
What does Mr. Argabright do for a living?
He works for one of the television stations.
So he gets taxed pretty heavily, or the television station.
He gets taxed?
The television station gets taxed, right?
I have no idea.
Okay.
So I guess, I don't know if you guys have any other suggestions?
I didn't come prepared with a suggestion on whom. Since we didn't have anyone the last time, that's why I mentioned we had this gentleman, but I don't know if anyone else has a recommendation.
No, I did not.
Then I would make a motion to appoint Stephen Brewer to the Cameron County Appraisal District Board of Directors for a 2-year term.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed. Just say we keep David Argabright. He's already been on there. He's vice president. Don't want to lose that seniority.
Make a motion.
I'll make the motion to keep the current appointee on for another 2-year term.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
No, I voted yes. That was an aye
So
first.
it's
Making
3-2.
this difficult, Commissioner.
I
Okay,
was slow with the
so we want to
switch.
clear the record here for Miss Amanda, because sometimes we make things difficult. So I will
Always
say
make things difficult.
Commissioner Ford and Lopez and Commissioner Mesmar voted in favor of Albright?
Correct.
Albright,
Argabright.
Arkabright, I
David.
apologize. David, and Commissioner Bettis and Commissioner Morales, nay, voted against. Thank you. So motion carries.
That's assuming he wants to stay on.
Yeah, he does.
He does. he
You've
says,
spoken with
okay.
him,
Yeah.
Commissioner? Okay. All right. Item 12, consideration and possible action to authorize the filing of an application for financial assistance with the Texas Water Development Board for funding the design and construction of priority wastewater capital improvement projects. Yes, Tim?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight.
Apply. We don't even need the presentation.
You won't,
Good.
all right. I think
We are all here in support of you. We know how
Okay.
much you need this, and we've been sitting there waiting. Unless people have questions here, I think that we're all on board, unless there's a discussion.
Sit down, Tim.
Motion to approve.
Thank you very
Motion
much.
to approve.
Flush,
Second.
baby, flush.
So I do want to point out that we do have an amended resolution, which I did forward. We are not requesting 80 million, we're requesting authorization for 20 million. That's based on recent information, so that is different than what's in your packet.
Okay.
Make sure we're clear on what we're approving here.
Tim, before we vote on this, I want to thank you because I ended up going to this Texas Water Development workshop they had in Raymondville today. Your guys were there, and they stuck around because they had a few questions. They made themselves known. So thank you. Gabe, thank you for sending Anna.
Yeah.
She did the same thing.
Yeah, she's
All
really
right,
good.
so I'm happy and I'm glad that we're pushing forward. And obviously, come Monday, there's a conference in Austin. So I don't know who's gonna be attending, but that's another one that we need to make sure that our presence is felt and it is well known so we can get those fundings here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, do you have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
And that's to, the revised resolution, right?
Correct.
Yes.
The revised, correct. Thank you. Make the motion to approve the revised resolution as presented by Mr. Skoglund.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And yes, again, Tim, thank you for all the excellent work and everything you're doing to move forward with the things that you need and to help our community. Do we have any board appointments?
Not yet.
Oh, ma'am, I just have a plea again that if you have vacancies for Keep Arlington Beautiful, you try and fill them.
I will do that.
No.
Commissioner,
None.
Reading?
I would like to reappoint Ernesto Flores to the Zoning Board of Adjustments. And I would also like to appoint Rodrigo Rico Rodriguez to the Construction Board of Adjustments.
All right, motion?
Oh, very quickly,
Oh, sorry,
it has to do with the board.
yeah, the youth?
Yeah, again, if you have any picks for the Youth Advisory Board, we kind of need those picks. I know I'm gonna put it on the agenda for the next meeting, so that way we can change the age of the people.
Commissioner, I'm gonna do that for you.
Are you gonna do it?
Yes.
It was
Okay.
already, I think.
Down to six, yes, we're working on that.
Okay.
Down to 16?
Yes,
Yes.
please. So that way we can get some people, because, yeah, I keep getting some, people, so one of my pick from the school keeps asking me like, hey, sir, when are we gonna start? And I'm like,
And I have one for you, if you'd like, in your district, once the age
Perfect.
changes.
If we could do, instead of age, like, what, 16 is about a sophomore, more or less?
yes, junior.
Can we just do like sophomore,
That would be great.
yeah, sophomore year or whatever the equivalent is, and up to
15.
whatever the age cap is.
So like 15, so 15 then? Because that's what sophomores are.
At what age do you start to drive? Because
16.
16?
15.
15 with the learner's permit, 14 if you're a farmer. or have a
12 if you
disability.
live.
12 if you were me when I was that age.
15 with the learner's permit. I would just say, as someone that, was the youngest in the class, I think that is an excellent idea, because if not, you're going to cut off half of the sophomores because of that age difference. And surely they can get a ride with a parent or.
What was your suggestion, Commissioner?
Sophomore.
Just a sophomore?
Yeah, instead of saying an age, because I was like, same, I was born in July. So I was like 15 my whole sophomore year, and then 16 when I became a junior, right? So if you go by sophomore year, you're a little more inclusive. We open up the gap a little more.
Would that work or no good?
Are you?
Oh, I'm fine with that.
I
I
can make the
mean-
change, and it's just a matter of the school district appointing somebody that is that.
Yeah, because I forwarded you the ones that they sent me, right?
Yes, I've got all those.
Okay,
And
so
they're
yeah.
ready. Yeah. Okay.
I'll make a
Yeah.
motion to approve the appointed.
Okay, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, item 14, executive session. Deliberation pursuant to the Texas Government Code 551.074 to discuss personnel matters relating to the duties, employment, evaluation, including but not limited to the form, matrix, and procedure to be used for the evaluation of city manager. The time is now 6:57, and we are going into executive session. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We are taking a break.
I want someone to oppose it these days. Just to, I've never seen it.
Mesmer, the time is now 7:30, and we are back from executive session, and we do not have any action to take on our executive session items, so we are adjourned, and that is all we have. Thank you very much.